For more than 100 years, road bicycles had two chain rings up front. A big one for going fast, a small one for going up hills, and a derailleur that swung the chain between them. Nobody questioned this layout. Nobody redesigned it. It was simply how road bikes worked, full stop. Then, somewhere around 2012, mountain bikes did something radical. They threw away the front derailleur entirely. One single chainring up front, a massively wide cassette in the back, and a complete rethinking of how a drivetrain should function. It worked beautifully off-road. It spread to gravel bikes. And in the last few years, it has started showing up on actual road bikes, sold by the same brands that have been selling 2X setups for a century. Cyclists are sharply divided about whether this is the smartest evolution in modern cycling or one of the most overhyped trends the industry has ever pushed onto the road. So which is it? Is 1X on a road bike a scam or genius? The answer depends entirely on what kind of road bike rider you actually are. To understand the story, you have to start in the dirt. In 2012, the American component manufacturer SRAM launched something called XX1, an 11-speed mountain bike group set built around a single front chainring and a cassette that climbed all the way up to 42 teeth in the back. The logic was simple. Mountain bikers spent half their rides bouncing through rocks and roots, and the front derailleur was a constant source of dropped chains, jammed gears, and frustration. Removing it eliminated an entire category of mechanical problems. The cassette grew big enough to handle the steepest climbs. The chainring up front got optimized teeth profiles called narrow-wide that gripped the chain and prevented it from falling off, even on washboard descents. The mountain bike world adopted the system almost overnight. By 2016, asking a mountain biker about their front derailleur was an old joke. The success on the trail led to the next obvious step: gravel. When gravel bikes emerged as a category in the late 2010s, brands started equipping them with 1X drivetrains by default. SRAM Force 1, then Apex 1, then the AXS wireless generation became the gravel standard. The reasoning was the same as on mountain bikes: less to maintain, fewer chain drops on rough surfaces, simpler cockpit ergonomics, cleaner aesthetics. Riders loved it. Sales boomed, and by 2022, gravel bikes were sold 3-to-1 in 1X configuration over 2X. But this is where the story gets controversial, because the same brands that conquered mountain and gravel started pushing one-by onto road bikes too. SRAM offered Force AXS and Red Access in one-by configurations. Specialized began building road bikes designed around one-by setups. Direct-to-consumer brands like Canyon and Ribble offered one-by road bike options. The cycling press lit up. Half of the road community celebrated. The other half pulled out the pitchforks. And the argument has not really cooled down since. To understand why this divide exists, you have to look at what one-by actually delivers and what it actually costs. The case for 1X on a road bike starts with simplicity. A single chainring up front means no front derailleur, no left shifter cable or wire, no inner ring, no front shifting logic to think about during a hard effort. The bike has fewer parts, weighs less, looks cleaner, and is dramatically easier to maintain. There are no front shift adjustments, no chain rub between gears, no cross-chaining problems to manage. For riders who hated dealing with their front derailleur, 1X feels like a quiet revolution. The cockpit becomes one shifter, one task, one thing to think about. Push right to go harder, push left to go easier. Never worry about which chainring you are in. There is also an aerodynamic argument. A bike with no front derailleur and a single narrow chainring can theoretically save a small amount of drag. The numbers are tiny, often less than a watt at race speeds, but the manufacturers love to mention it. And there is a maintenance argument. A 1X drivetrain has fewer wear points, fewer adjustment surfaces, and fewer parts to break. Bike shop mechanics generally agree that 1X systems are more reliable in the long term, because the front derailleur is one of the most failure-prone components on a road bike. However, the case against 1X on road bikes is real, and it is rooted in physics that does not go away just because the marketing is loud. The biggest issue is gear spacing. A traditional 2X road bike has 52 gear combinations with 2 chain rings up front and 11 or 12 gears in the back. The gaps between adjacent gears are small, often just 1 or 2 teeth. This lets a road cyclist fine-tune their cadence to the exact effort level they want at any given moment. A 1X setup with a 1036 cassette has bigger gaps between gears, sometimes 3 teeth, sometimes 4. For a road cyclist riding at a sustained tempo, those bigger jumps mean their cadence shifts more dramatically with each gear change. Some riders barely notice, others find it deeply annoying, especially when they are trying to hold a precise effort on a long climb or in a pace line. The second issue is chain line efficiency. When a chain runs straight from the chain ring to the cassette, it is at its most efficient. When the chain runs at an angle, especially in the highest or lowest gears of a wide cassette, friction increases. A 1X drivetrain spends much more of its time at extreme chain line angles because there is only one chain ring up front. The efficiency loss can be measured. It is small, often only 2 or 3 watts, but it is consistent across hours of riding. For a casual rider, this is meaningless. For a competitive cyclist measuring every watt, it is real. The third issue is range. A serious road cyclist needs both a low gear for steep climbs and a high gear for fast descents and sprints. With a 2X setup, this range is easy to achieve. With a 1X setup, the cassette has to do all the work, and that means using cassettes that range from 10 teeth to 36 teeth, or sometimes more. The bigger the cassette, the bigger the gear gaps. It becomes a trade-off. You can have a wide range, or you can have small jumps, but you cannot fully have both on a 1X setup. This is why the pro peloton has been hesitant to adopt 1X for road racing. Time trial bikes have started using 1X setups because time trial racing happens at a narrow range of efforts, and the simplicity is a clean win. But no general classification road team has yet fully committed to 1X for stage racing, mountain stages, or sprint stages. The pros need both fine cadence control and wide gear range, and 2X still does both better than 1X, by enough margin to matter at the highest level. So where does that leave the everyday road cyclist? If you are a recreational road rider who hates fiddling with derailleurs, who rides on rolling terrain with no extreme climbs, who values simplicity and clean aesthetics over the last few percent of mechanical efficiency, 1X makes a real case for itself. The bike will be lighter, easier to maintain, less cluttered, and almost as efficient as a 2X setup for the kind of riding you actually do. You will not miss the front derailleur. You will not miss the small gear gaps. The trade-off is genuinely worth it. If you are a competitive road cyclist riding at sustained high efforts, training on long climbs, racing in tight pace lines, or chasing every watt, 2X is still the right answer. The smaller gear gaps, the better chain line, the wider effective range, and the fine cadence control all matter. The simplicity gains of 1X do not outweigh the precision losses for serious road riding. This is why the pros stay on 2X, and why the most demanding amateur riders do too. For everyone in the middle, the answer comes down to terrain and personality. Flat or rolling terrain, casual to moderate effort, and a preference for clean, simple bikes points toward 1X. Hilly or mountainous terrain, harder training rides, and a preference for fine-tuned shifting points toward 2x. There is no universally correct answer. There is only the right answer for your specific riding life. So is 1x on a road bike a scam or genius? It is neither, and that is the part the loudest voices on both sides keep missing. It is a real tool with real benefits and real costs. For some riders, the benefits dominate. For other riders, the costs dominate. The cycling industry, as usual, has framed it as a revolution because revolutions sell more bikes. The reality is much more boring. 1x is a different way of building a road drivetrain, and the right answer depends on what kind of riding you actually do, not on which side of the cafe argument is louder this month. Pick the system that matches your terrain, your effort levels, and your personality. That is the only verdict that is ever applied to anything in cycling. Thanks for watching. If you want more honest takes on the technology shaping modern road cycling, hit subscribe and stick around.